Righto, I'm going to have the gearbox apart, see what is causing this effect on the top of these gears. Seems a bit, these are all looking normal, all of these, all of these, all of these, all of these, but these have got some sort of knife edge going on the top of them. I'll see what I can do with one hand. That's to kick the kickstart idler gear. Now that's not going to come out, if I remember rightly, with this is the oil return from the oil cooler for the gearbox. No, okay, so probably take this out and the selector forks. Let me just pulse it. I'll whip that off, take that off, and then I think if I take this out, the 3 selector forks, and we'll have a look, see how much space we got. Then I'll just turn it upside down, heat it to get the 2, that bearing and the bearing underneath. Because, see if I can get the light on. Yes, down there, right in the middle of the shaft, where the bottom of this shaft runs, it seems to have taken a bit of the casing away, just sort of polished it a bit. So let me just pulse it. Now I've got oily hands and see what we got. Bear with. Boosh. Right, that's that gone. Down there, replace that washer. It's got a bit of Loctite on it, so it's probably going to be a bit manky anyway. So let us, it just sticks. There we go, look at that. Is there a washer under it? There is. There's a little washer at the bottom, and it's got a little on the top there, a little jobby that fits in that groove. Now, in that groove. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about these videos and said, is there anything I should change? And he said, yes, you sound really boring. And Have got to say, I do sound really boring. I can only apologise. But short of telling a few jokes, I should try and sort of not be so formal and so serious, and we'll just see how we go. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Right. Now, this little laddie with the 3 selector forks, that will come out. Boosh. And then the top one fits onto the reverse lever. So when you put it in reverse, it just lifts that gear up, this one, and it meshes with this one, which is that one. And all this one does, when I put the gearbox together, when I've sorted it, that goes on there and that's it. This peg locates in there and that's it basically. That he's just, yeah, right. So one, I'm doing this through the camera lens, so hold on, I've got to try and hold this in frame and then two, 1, 2, 2. Now the bottom one. Yeah. yeah, I think I have before put these in place and then lowered the gear cluster, the gearbox in with all of these in place once to sort of heat the shell up. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to leave that one. Let's just give this a wiggle. That will come off. That's the reverse, that just comes off. See all the selector fork sits in there? That little groove. I'm going to give these a wiggle just to see. It is coming out. I don't know if I'm happy with that. I don't know if I'm happy with that. I can't put my camera anywhere to... I need a little tripod. That's what I need. Let's wiggle it. Can you see? Can you see, mother? Is it coming out? It is. Is it? Mind you, the gearbox case has only got to hold the bearings snugly. Right, I'm going to pulse it again, give it a wiggle, two-handed wiggle, and then we'll see what we got. Hold on, hold on. Ba-ding. Right, we're back. It worked. That's how they do this in the lens. Look, that comes off. That's the top, so that'll fit there. Bottom one, middle one, top one. That's the ring for the middle one. That's the ring for the bottom one. Now, what I've seen, excuse me, on some videos, see, most of these videos that I watch are in Russian or German, but this chap, see, I've just replaced these two fourth gears, and this chap, what he did was he sat the two bearings. I've got two pieces of metal. I'll put them across two blocks. Put them across, and I can either bring the blocks in close so that the metal doesn't sort of flex in the middle, because these are quite heavy, or I can stand the metal strips on their edge, but as long as these bearings are level with each other, you can measure the gears. I want to see why this one is sort of turning into a bit of a knife edge. So that's sorry, bad camera. See the shiny bit there? I have got, alright, gloves, spare gearbox, obviously. See that one? There's no wear in it at all. It looks very nice, sort of round there. But this gearbox is a standard Dnepr. It's not been modified. The two top mounting holes, these two, have been modified for a BMW engine. Let's see if we can clean that off a bit. Right. Yeah, it's definitely taken some off. So I'll get me two bits of strap and knock up some sort of way of holding the gearbox upright with the bearings level, and then we'll have a little measure up, and I'll pulse it and I'll be back. Right, I've got a couple of bits of, it's about 5mm thick, so it's not going to flex, not going to bend. they all look pretty good. The one on the right, the gears on the right are slightly higher. Definitely. But the gears that are, see that one there? That's the one with the knife edge. They're not rubbing. They're not rubbing on this one. See, they're not that high that they're going to rub underneath, under the... Where's me? Oh, let's kneel down here. Right, they're not rubbing on this surface. So, let's see if I can't move this bearing up a bit in the shaft, on the shaft. Bring that shaft down by about, what are we looking at? A couple of mil, sort of 3 or 4 mil. You can see the wear marks. See the wear marks there. These aren't shiny. Focus. There we go. So yeah, it's too high. They're too high. The shaft on the left, this is all one machining. These aren't separate gears till you get to there. In fact, I can't even tell if that's whereas these are gears on a spline shaft. All of this lot will come off. These, let's get the light back. Look, there's just one. See that gap in there? The gear is part of the shaft. That gear is part of the shaft. That gear, can't really see. Probably is part of the shaft. But that bottom one, that fourth gear, comes off. So, see if I can't get a bit of heat on it and gently drift it. I'll see if there's space. In fact, we can do that now. Bearings are right. There looks to be a bit of a gap there. And it looks like the shaft will come through the bearing a bit more. See in there? Looks like there's a bit of a gap. This bearing will move up to that. Well, having said that, if the shaft comes down, then it's going to rub on the case more, isn't it? Right, let me have a little look off camera, see what I can find, and I'll come back. Hold on. Right, that shiny bit, or that bit, right, that's lighter in colour. It's not actually the shaft, look. Yeah, it's moving. Which is, that's where the fourth gear, that's fourth gear. That's where the fourth gear should sit, on this shaft. And this little fella is that. Admittedly, it's not tight, but there's less than a mil of movement. So I think, I don't know. What I'll do is I could measure the thickness of the bearing, and then measure this bit of shaft. See, yeah, but they're not right, are they? I think everybody will agree. These aren't lined up, they're not. Right, well, I've stripped it, and I've had a look, and see, they do look, they've got a funny wear pattern. Look at these, look, funny old, and these, oh, I don't know, they have a bit, look, they're sort of chamfered, for want of a better word. Whereas all the rest of the teeth, focus, so they are chamfered. Right, let's have a closer look, get that bearing on there a bit more, and then measure, once this is pushed on that way, measure from the bearing, the face of the bearing, to the bottom face of that gear, and then have a look at the gearbox shell and see how much too low, if it is. Do you like me lights? Yeah. Right, let me get some measuring. I'll see you in a bit. Right, I put my steel rule across there, and then with the inside, where are we? Inside jaws measured 18.5 mil, and then put this, the end of that tip where the bearing sits, and put the edge of the verniers on that shiny bit, not on the, there's a chamfer just there, on that, and it's coming up 16.78. So 18.5 mil going into a 16.7 depth of bearing space. That shouldn't be rubbing on the casing, so I can still move this down this way towards this gear. In fact, let's see if it goes in. See, that's in, that's down, that's not rubbing. It does look close, but listen. Nothing, that's not touching. You can see there is a bit of space there, unless this happened on the bottom from the previous owner, or, but that is down. That's down. And from up, you can't really see it on camera, but from where I am, you can see there is space. It's not rubbing, and you can hear it's not rubbing. I don't know if you can hear that, but you just hear it whirring. Strange. So those gears are knife edged to an extent. I think I'll just put it back together, tighten up that on the other shaft I just put in, move the bearing up to grip this spacer, shim, whatever you want to call it, a bit more, and then we'll see what happens. As always, leave a comment below, ask me anything you want. Thanks very much. Goodbye. Right, gearbox back together. It does look more promising. Look at those gears at the top. They're at the right height. Where's my pointy jabby bit? These gears, although they're not worn or shiny all the way down, these gears are thicker than these gears. And if you look down there, they're the same height. And when you turn it, that rattling is this gear on the reverse. So when that fella's there, this is reverse, it holds this reverse gear above it, and then when you drop it into reverse on the outside of the gearbox, you have to sort of push it right down. There's a little indent on the... It's not going to come up now. Bear with. Why are you coming up? I've gone too low. Right. On the gearbox there's a little bit that this knobbly bit, that's an engineering term for a knobbly bit, that has to ride over this raised part, which also corresponds on the cover, which is there. See, it's slightly raised. It stops it going into reverse, and you can see where that little groove is where the knobbly bit. So you have to pull it out gently, slide it over the knobbly bit, that locks it in place, that drops the gear down, and that meshes with reverse. And then it won't come out because there you go, it comes out just enough. Kick the covers on here, don't forget, and it holds it off of right, I see the problem. My laddo, the shaft has come out of its little, can you see it? Down there. Trying to get the torch to do its thing without... Hey, I'll see just beyond the shaft, that dark bit, that's where that shaft should be sitting. That's why it's not going up and down. So I'll just wiggle it about, move the selector dogs into the quadrant, gear change quadrant, put all this back in place. This groove, that slot, fits over the quadrant. That's how I know it's all gone a bit. So it is lining up a bit better. The bearing moved slightly, and it's not, the shim isn't rocking anymore. It moves nicely, and I've put some oil on it. So we shall see. I've sent oh God, speak English, fucking idiot. This is the original Dnepr clutch pushrod. Ignore that O-ring. I said ignore it. It's square at the end because the Dnepr clutch has got a square hole. BMW clutch has just got a hole. So the end of the modified pushrod is just a conical tip. But it broke right it broke this shoulder off there. This is 9mm, it goes down to 5, and there will be a oil seal sitting on there. The oil seal isn't even the full depth of this cutout, and then this bit goes into the end of that for the thrust bearing. So I've sent a piece of metal away, which turns out to be high-speed steel, so the chap I sent it to can't machine it. All I want is this bit left solid, 2 grooves for 2 O-rings, one sort of there and one sort of down here, because this pushrod shaft sits in the input shaft, which is hollow all the way down to the clutch. Gearbox oil level comes up to sort of here. This sticks out of the, no it doesn't, it's inside the gearbox cover, but you've got the thrust wash, the thrust bearing over the top of that, and the tube down the middle. The original oil seal doesn't even seal this opening really, so I've got 2 washers I've sent off which are sort of 10mm diameter. This is 10mm, so it won't snag. The clutch pushrod will still move up and down nicely. It won't hold the clutch on and burn it out, but it you know, it won't be too tight to sort of burn out the thrust bearing, and it's loose enough to release enough to let the clutch release fully. So that's why being machined. But I can still put this lot back together. Can I put it back in the frame? I can't remember. No. I won't risk it. I'll put the cover on it, clean it all up, put it all back together, put the kickstart idler back on it. Under here is that little washer. Is that picking up? Yeah, with the indents, so it won't go on, won't go on, won't go on, won't go on, goes on. And then this goes on that way up, boosh. And then this goes on that, and this washer has got another groove, another little dimply bit. There I see. And that fits in that groove, that goes on there, and that's it, nothing else. The cover holds that on. The dowel, for want of a better word, in the cover sort of locates on there. That goes into an opening on the cover, so does that. This one is longer than this one, so you have to make sure you don't put around the wrong way by mistake and punch this one straight through the case. I'll put those on in a minute with some fresh washers, bonded washers. There's fresh bonded washers, top and bottom. That's Loctite, that's not, is it? No, it's a bit of the washer, so bin that. Fresh washers, top and bottom, fresh bit of Loctite, so the oil, cool oil comes down, splashes on this gear that's spinning on, because it's connected to the shaft, the larger portion, and it gets slung around the gearbox, and then we can put it back together, hopefully in time for it to snow. So, I know I've said it in the end of the last before I cut off, but I know I've put this back together. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.